2017. We invite every citizen of our country to join the green and net zero building movement spearheaded by IGBC and make India the Jagat Guru in sustainability.
all of you to the third and final day of the 18th India CII-Exim Bank Conclave on India-Africa Growth Partnership. Thank you for being with us, and I am expecting that there will be many more people who will join us soon. Our speakers are here, so we'd like to start on time. And this is a session on scaling up green and clean energy collaboration. I'd like to request all the speakers who are joining us on stage to please come and take their seats. We have with us Mr. Alexander Hogaveen Rutter, Private Sector Specialist, International Solar Alliance, Mr. Sudhir Mahajan, CEO and TD Sterling & Wilson, Mrs. Vaishali Nigam Sinha, Chief Sustainability and CSR Officer, Renew Power, Dr. Shikhar Reddy, Joint Secretary, Department of Commerce, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, and our three honorable guests from Africa, His Excellency Mr. William Obiraku Aidu, Deputy Minister for Energy, Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Ibrahim Matola, Honorable Minister for Energy, Republic of Malawi, and His Excellency Abdoulaye Job, Honorable Minister of Petroleum and Energy, Republic of the Gambia. Moderating this session is Mr. K.S. Venkatgiri, Executive Director, CII Green Business Council. I'd like to request you, Mr. Venkatgiri, to give your opening remarks and take this session forward. All of you are welcome to use either of the podiums, so you can go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, friends. It's my pleasure and privilege to be here amongst you and moderate this session on scaling up green and clean energy collaboration. Interestingly, there was a news item today from European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecast that the first 3 or 4 days of June, the overall global mean temperature has crossed more than 1.5 degrees centigrade of the pre-industrial level temperature. This is what we have been working for and looking for and aspiring for by 2050. This is the first time this temperature has been breached in summer globally. There have been few breaches earlier, but this is the first time. So this breach has happened in the summer. So it's a very appropriate time for holding this session on scaling up of green and clean energy and also working towards more collaboration. Africa, as it works towards modernization, development, industrialization, there's an excellent opportunity for us to do it the green way. Africa is also blessed with a lot of natural resources in the form of hydrogen, solar, and wind. So there's an opportunity for it to collaborate with India. India, of course, has done well on the clean energy front. We have more than 170 gigawatt of installed renewable energy capacity, and more than 80 gigawatt are in the pipeline. We have an aspirational target of 5 million tons of hydrogen by 2030. So there are substantial opportunities to collaborate between India and the African countries. And there have, of course, been several stellar examples. NTPC in India has been working with several African countries. There have been several private sector players, including some of them on the head table, who have been working closely with Africa. International Solar Alliance has been playing a key role in solar activities in Africa. Having said that, scaling up clean energy and taking up green initiatives, in addition to the environmental benefit, there's a huge economic benefit. A recent study indicates that taking up aggressive clean energy and green initiatives globally, all aggressively, would result in an economic benefit of about $4 trillion per year by 2030. A substantial amount in terms of overall reduction of costs, reduction of disaster-related damages. The overall savings put together is somewhere of the order of about $4 trillion per year, which is a substantial amount of money. So the clean and green energy, there's an opportunity to grow, modernize, develop, and contribute to the environment, all this while saving money. Let me share a small example before I leave the stage to the experts. An example from India, an example of the Indian Green Building Movement. Indian Green Building Movement started in the year 2004 with just one building of about 20,000 square feet. And right now it has grown to about 10 billion square feet by 2023, making India the second largest in the world in terms of overall green building footprint. Having said that, what are the costs? In the year 2004, when the first green buildings were constructed, it used to cost anything between 25% more than what a conventional building would have cost. Over a period of time, the cost came down because of economy of scale. By 2014, in a decade, it came down to about 6 to 7% incremental cost. Right now, we have several examples in the country where a green buildings of the highest level have got 2% lower cost than what it would cost a conventional building. So going green reduces the initial construction cost, initial development cost. It reduces costs on a continuous basis in terms of reduction of resources in energy, water, waste, in addition to contributing to better health and well-being for the inmates of the building. So there is an opportunity. So going for a green building results in substantial amount of benefits, both for the environment, for yourself, as well as the economic advantage. So a similar way, scaling up clean and green energy is a necessity, and collaboration is perhaps the key to go through this scaling up process. And there's tremendous opportunity for collaborating between India and African countries, and I'm very glad to be part of this session, and it would be my privilege and pleasure to request the first speaker, Mr. Alexander Hugbeen Rutter, Private Sector Specialist of International Solar Alliance, to make his speech, please. Mr. Rutter. Can I request all of you to join me in welcoming Mr. Rutter?
So thank you so much for the kind introduction to the distinguished dignitaries on the dais and all those warm friends within the room. It's a great honor to come here and speak about the role of International Solar Alliance in furthering South-South collaboration, particularly among India and Africa. So International Solar Alliance, we're doing a great deal of work in Africa, particularly around capacity building, technical assistance, and knowledge sharing. And we're hoping to continue to build on this work we've done to date by continuing to grow and foster that relationship. But given that this is an India-Africa summit, I also wanted to highlight some of the fantastic work that India is doing in the renewable energy sector that I believe is directly applicable and relevant to many countries in Africa. So one, for example, is the role of Solar Energy Corporation of India. I was on a call with some folks in Nigeria, and they said, this is what we need. We need a Solar Energy Corporation of Nigeria. For those of you who don't know, it's basically an intermediary off-taker between the distribution utilities and the generators, and this provides an option for real bankable power. And this really has supported India in ensuring developers, like Renew on the stage, can sell power and be sure that they're, to mitigate their payment risk. Another one is transmission. A lot of people don't realize this, but China has 2 grids, US has 3, EU has something like 18. India is the only major economy in the world with one unified transmission grid. And when Texas had power outages last year, I was saying, well, maybe they need some experts from India to go over there and help teach them about the value of interconnections. So I think there's a tremendous amount for India to help teach and to guide in terms of synchronization of power grids. Another one is the EIA process. And so I was just speaking with the minister earlier today about making sure, balancing the needs of locals and making sure there's not too much red tape in developing projects. And I think India is much stronger than the West in terms of finding that balance between the two. You look at the EIA process for wind and solar projects, and well, the developers will complain it's too strict, and some others, environmentalists, may say it's not strong enough. But I think it's really struck that perfect medium, that perfect balance between the needs of development and environmental protection. Another one is pumped hydro. So you look at what India's been doing. This pumped hydro guidelines, they really are world-class. Off-river pumped hydro is a way to have energy storage, to integrate wind and solar without having the environmental impacts of on-river pumped hydro. And again, there's an excellent example to take the lessons from India and bring them to countries in Africa that are trying to integrate vast amounts of wind and solar. Finally, the last one I want to talk about was cook stoves. We were actually just talking about this. So there's a number of great Indian companies working on cook stoves and also working on productive use applications. So this is, again, another one of the ISA programs. You have solar cold storage facilities, and you have solar pumps, and you have a number of solar-powered agricultural equipment, which are good not just for the planet and energy access, but also good for growing and developing local communities, particularly in rural areas. So with that, I think I'll pass back to the moderator, but I really look forward to engaging with members of this audience and helping ISA bring some of these technology solutions to various countries across the continent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Retter, for keeping it short and sweet. 4 very important points he made apart from the collaboration between India and Nigeria. One is about the single grid vis-a-vis the 18 grids in the Europe. A fine balance between development and environment which is adapted in India for the EIA process. The pump hydro is an alternative for storage which has been adopted in India, which could be a potential for replication in Africa. And of course, solar for community was another point which Mr. Retter made. Thank you, Mr. Retter. May I now the privilege of requesting Mr. Sudhir Mahajan for his address, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Venkat, for that introduction. The dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to each one of you. Though my other colleagues will be talking on the green energy and the renewable energy, I'm talking the other side of the coin, the transmission and distribution, which makes it complete each other. And while said that, I represent Sterling and Wilson, a Shapurji Group company, and lead the business of transmission and distribution across the geographies in Sterling and Wilson. So colleagues, quality and reliable power there is no need for me to tell each one of you that how important it is for the growth of the economies, and that's so for Africa as well. And as the renewable energy is now seeing the grid parity, or the grid parity is being achieved, as Mr. Session Chair also has said that, the wide-scale applications of the renewable assets are being deployed all over the globe. However, these assets, the power will finally reach to the last mile only when the required T&D network is available in place. And that requires a lot of advanced planning, given the very basic challenges the transmission and distribution sector faces, right from identifying the projects, identifying these corridors, various clearances, forest, land, etc., and then it is achieved and if it is achieved in synchronization, no renewable assets will be stranded, and the quality power will be delivered where it is really required. Having said the challenges, the Africa presents a unique opportunity not only for solar assets. Let me tell, and each one of you may be aware from the African delegations, that Africa represents 60% of the best solar assets of the world. And as of today, only 1% of that which is tapped or exploited. And having said that, it provides an enormous opportunity for each one of us, not only from the renewable asset generation front, as well as from the T&D assets development point of view. As I was mentioning about the challenges, the route, the land, especially Africa, there are the unique challenges which we have experienced while we executed projects there. Some of them could be the gestation period from identification to award, the logistic challenges presented by the terrains, the availability to the port, the connectivity to the port, and the skilled resources. And that puts a lot of responsibility on both Indian and African sides to develop these assets, to develop these skills locally, so that the assets can be come up on the ground in the minimum possible time. With this, there are a lot of regional initiatives are being planned in Africa, and one such initiative is the Green Africa, this corridor. Africa Clean Energy Corridor, that is between Southern African Power Pool and Eastern African Power Pool. This initiative is by 30 countries, 30 these governments, and there is a lot of investment is being now put into this. By 2030, at least 50% of the total energy investment in that region will be attracted in this corridor. So it represents a huge opportunity for T&D fraternity, and Sterling Wilson has its humble beginning in Africa. We have done 3 projects so far. the 220 kV transmission line in Rwanda and Tanzania, which originates from the Rusumo hydroelectric power projects, and one distribution project in Togo, where we have electrified 150-200 localities. The opportunities are huge. Going forward, I expect that Sterling Wilson and all other T&D fraternity from India has a tremendous opportunity to contribute to the growth. And also, to end this little speech, and as the aim of the solar mission, Solar Alliance, International Solar Alliance, we all have a dream to realize one sun, one world, one grid. And that will make the renewable assets available to the deficit countries from the surplus countries to take and to leverage on the time differences. So the opportunities are huge, and we are looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Sudhir Mahajan. You made a very important point in terms of how important is the last mile connectivity, whether it's in terms of green transportation or in terms of electrical power distribution. The last mile connectivity is the one which makes the difference and connects it ultimately to the end user. And how to achieve it with synchronization was the point which Mr. Mahajan made. Another very important point which he mentioned is about 60% of the best solar assets are in Africa, out of which only 1% has been utilized. So there is a 60-fold increase in terms of renewable energy, particularly solar installation in Africa, and there's enormous opportunity for both the players in Africa and India to collaborate. And he mentioned about the Africa Clean Energy Corridor as a good opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Mahajan. A big hand to Mr. Mahajan for the points he has made. It's my pleasure and privilege to welcome Ms. Vaishali Nigam Sinha, Chief Sustainability and CSR Officer of Renew Power. Renew Power is one of the bright stars in India and renewable energy, both in terms of capacity and efficiency. Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning to all the esteemed guests on the dais and to the audience here. It is a real pleasure to be speaking at this 18th CII-Exim Bank Conclave. I'd like to congratulate CII, of course, and the Exim Bank for organizing this important annual initiative, which has set the ground for many cross-border partnerships and has given shape to policy, dialogues, and partnerships between India and Africa. India and Africa over the years have shared a very strong relationship. India is one of the top 5 investors in Africa, with a total investment amounting to $71 billion over the last 25 years. India has also extended concessional loans worth $12.3 billion to Africa, with grant assistance of about $700 million, which is pretty significant when you look at the sort of monetary connect we have with Africa. We continue to remain Africa's allies in its path to growth and development, and the clean energy transition remains a key priority area for partnership between India and Africa, as announced by our Honorable Minister of Commerce and Industry, Shri Piyush Goyal, at the conclave last year. So let's, I am from the renewable energy sector, as I was introduced, so I'd like to focus a little bit on the clean energy transition and what are the opportunities for us to engage and perhaps learn from each other. And as far as India's clean energy transition is concerned, that over the last decade, the transition here has emerged as a successful blueprint for the global south. And we must tap on this, we must leverage on this, not only between countries at the government sort of interaction level, but the private sector, with the civil society, and that's when we'll really see the impact and the acceleration in both the countries. Actually, there's a lot to learn, and in the work we do, we really study a lot of the work which is being done in the, sort of the social arena, the social responsibility arena in particular, because, Africa has, I was just discussing with the energy minister, a lot of climate driven challenges. And it's really inspiring for all of us around the world to see how Africa is resilient and really deals with these challenges. So there's a lot for us to learn, and then a lot for us to also exchange with respect to what we have achieved in our transition in our country over the last decade as well. And these are platforms where many of these conversations have been happening, I understand, and it's heartening to see that. Also, between why has this transition picked up? And our company is about 12 years old, so fairly young. But when we started, there was absolutely, I think, no and very limited understanding of what renewables is. Is it an area? Is it even a sector? Or is it just a way for high net worth individuals to invest in turbines? I mean, that was the sector when we started. So as I was speaking to some of the panelists here, Africa, certain parts of Africa is experiencing and observing that level of, I guess, position in their countries with respect to renewables. But all it takes is commitment and for policy. So we have a Prime Minister who's very committed and I think intuitively understands this sector, is deeply committed and passionate about it. And that's what's driven folks like us to get involved and be effective and efficient, because the policies then become enabling for us to do more. And we've seen it year on year, and the growth and the development in India of this sector has really been exponential. And we are very keen to share this with, as I mentioned, a lot of the countries in the global south so that we can, again, work together. And as Mr. Mahajan, you mentioned, and it's really enlightening to see Africa is so rich, flush with natural resources, and the potential is significant. But Africa also has access to electricity remains an issue. We talk about transition, but sometimes we also have to step back and see that do certain countries even have any access, and those are areas. So we're all starting from different points of the journey, and much needs to be done, I think, and the requirements are different at different points of that journey. And if you look at the average electrification rate, I believe it's less than 35%. Nearly 600 million people have no access to electricity, and around 970 million people lack access to clean cooking. As the region continues to face negative impacts of climate change, as I mentioned, the urgency to scale up cheaper, cleaner, and modern sources of energy have become critical. And I'd like to underscore the point on cheaper. There is a little bit of misconception around clean energy being more expensive than conventional. That really is not the case. Based on the way, the scale at which renewables is growing, the kind of investments which are coming in the sector, it is indeed possible to see examples like India where clean energy does become cheaper and more affordable. So, again, if you look at the investment potential in Africa, with its vast and largely untapped renewable energy potential, Africa is clearly ready to leapfrog towards a clean and sustainable energy secure future. I think it's critical for a continent like Africa. And the barriers towards realizing this potential is really access to capital. And I can tell you, for companies like us as well, and countries, access to capital is key. And so I think there's a lot of need for innovation and the role multilateral financial institutions can play in accelerating this, and we need a lot more innovation and engagement with them to be able to present the problems and identify innovative solutions so that we can attract more capital in innovative ways. So in my view, that's really the essence of what needs to be done. So where can India play a role here is the question. So, African countries have a strong geographical advantage when it comes to harnessing renewables, and investments by IPPs, I guess like ours and many others in India, can play a key role. Some of the very, very eminent areas, I would say one of them is green hydrogen. Africa has the geographical advantage of being closer to a lot of the potential markets. Therefore, it is an area of collaboration We at Renew have just entered a framework agreement with Egypt. We see the potential in many other countries in Egypt. Carbon credits is another area in the EPC and O&M area. In manufacturing, our leadership, our Prime Minister has just announced incentives for us to manufacture in India, make in India, but we'll be very happy to make in India for Africa. So we look forward to such collaborations and partnerships. I think the governments play an enabling role, but it's private sector players who really make it happen on the ground. And I know as a result of such conclaves, many such partnerships come into being, and then we walk the talk. And let me end by saying that we are really committed to this energy transition, but more importantly, we are committed to it being just and inclusive. And I think that's what the Global South needs to come together to work towards that and make it happen. So I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You made several important points. As you closed, she spoke about just an inclusive transition. Another important point which Ms. Vaishali made is in learning from each other. It's not that India would give everything to Africa, but there is also an opportunity to learn from Africa and together develop a successful footprint for the Global South. Another very important point which she made is in terms of the social aspect, the climate-related challenges which are impacting, and this could be one which can be solved by clean energy to build more resilience. Another important point which she mentioned, that clean energy transition can happen with a lot of commitment and drive from the top. She said one of the main reasons why India could substantially improve its renewable energy footprint is in terms of the commitment and the drive from the Prime Minister himself. Lastly, she mentioned about access to capital being a key, and again reiterated the point that clean energy is cheaper in comparison to conventional energy. And in terms of opportunities between India and African countries, is in terms of IPPs like Renew Power investing in Africa, working together on green hydrogen, because there are several markets which are potentially closer to African countries, and in terms of working together for carbon credits and ultimately developing just an inclusive society for both India and Africa. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. A big hand to Mrs. Vaishali Sinha for making such important points at this session. It's my pleasure and privilege to invite Dr. Srikhar Reddy, an IFS officer who is Joint Secretary in Department of Commerce, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. He's one of the most dynamic officials of his IFS batch. Over to you, Dr. Srikhar Reddy.
Dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to participate in this session on green and clean energy collaboration between India and Africa. The topic at hand holds great significance as it highlights the prospects of India's contribution in Africa's energy transition and also its energy security. As Mrs. Vaishali just now mentioned, Africa has abundant natural resources and sunshine. It has the potential to become a powerhouse in the renewable energy sector. Many countries in Africa have already adopted ambitious renewable energy targets. However, access to finance, technology and expertise remains a challenge for African countries in achieving their clean energy goals. So India has been a trusted partner for Africa's development journey, and we firmly believe that India, with its recent achievements in the clean and green energy sector, can play a vital role in unlocking the continent's immense clean energy potential and driving its sustainable growth. As Mrs. Vaishali mentioned, in the past decade, India has made significant strides with regarding to solar and wind energy. Now, India is the fourth largest country globally in terms of the renewable energy installed capacity with a capacity of 173 gigawatt. Solar energy capacity since 2014 increased over 25 times from 2.6 gigawatt to around 67.8 gigawatt. Similarly, wind capacity doubled from 21 gigawatt to over 43 gigawatt since 2014. India has also achieved 42% cumulative installed capacity from non-fossil fuel sources and set a target to reach 50% by 2030. So I will be speaking on 5 areas where India and Africa can collaborate in the clean and green energy sector. First, with its experience in harnessing solar and wind energy, I think India can collaborate with African partners which are embarking on their own journey of energy transitions. Under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Modi, India is also at forefront of international clean energy coalitions. Like Mr. Alexander from the ISA has mentioned about the International Solar Alliance, which was founded by India and France, aims to mobilize more than $1 trillion of investment in solar projects and facilitate the deployment of solar technologies across the globe. And the response from Africa is overwhelming, with more than 35 countries have already ratified the agreement. And also over and above this thing, Prime Minister Modi and the then UK Prime Minister have launched the One Sun, One World, One Grid initiative at the World Leaders Summit held in November 2021 during COP26. India, through the ISA, has supported the implementation of about 10,000 megawatt of solar power systems across the Sahel regions, aimed at providing electricity to approximately half of the 600 million Africans who remain off-grid. The government of India has also earmarked around $2 billion for lines of credits for solar projects in Africa. Indian companies, as we have heard from the representative from Renew Power and also Sterling and Wilson, so there are a lot of opportunities for investing in both solar and wind energy, but also in manufacturing of solar photovoltaic modules, bringing their financial resources, technical expertise, and project management capabilities. Second, there is also massive potential for collaboration in the green hydrogen. Already Vaishali has mentioned how the company is working, entered into a framework agreement with Egypt. India also, in January this year, has launched its green hydrogen mission, where we would like to make India as a hub for production, usage, and export of green hydrogen and its derivatives. By 2030, India has set an ambitious target of producing 5 million tons of green hydrogen. Similarly, Africa, in 2022, few countries came together and formed this Africa Green Hydrogen Alliance to intensify collaboration on green hydrogen projects. So green hydrogen, there is a great potential to decarbonize in hard-to-abate sectors like iron and steel, refinery, cement, and transportation. Like in Egypt alone, 3 of our renewable energy companies, one of which is Renew Power, Acme Group, and OCR, they have signed framework agreements or MOUs to invest over $18 billion to manufacture green hydrogen and export to the European market. And the third area of cooperation is collaboration in building resilient critical mineral supply chains, which are very crucial for the energy transition. Africa is rich in critical minerals required for manufacturing of batteries, electric vehicles, and also electric wires like lithium, copper, cobalt, and manganese. Indian companies can enter into joint ventures and set up the mining value chains, especially add value to the minerals which can be found there, and also export to other countries, including India. Indian companies can also consider setting up of manufacturing facilities for electric vehicles, not only for the common African market due to this entry into force of the African Continental FTA, but also many of the African countries have preferential market access to many developed partners like the European Union and other developed countries. And this will create a lot of employment and also transfer of technology to African countries. Fourth, the important area of collaboration is capacity building and training programs. India can contribute, especially in the renewable energy sector. I'm happy to inform you that 40% of all slots under the India's flagship capacity building initiative, which is the Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation Program, have been traditionally offered to Africa, highlighting India's commitment to supporting African nations in their development needs. Fifth, India can also collaborate with Africa in exploring innovative financing mechanisms such as green bonds, climate funds, carbon credits, public-private partnership, blended finance to fund these clean and green energy projects because they require huge amounts of investment. India's Exim Bank, for instance, has been actively supporting renewable energy projects through lines of credit and concessional financing. Similar financial instruments can be explored to stimulate investments in Africa's renewable energy sector. And India can also work with like-minded partner countries like UAE, Japan, or France through trilateral partnerships with countries in Africa for raising finances and also investment. In conclusion, India's own experience in renewable energy has been remarkable, and we are eager to share our knowledge, expertise, best practices, and technological advancement to support Africa's quest for clean and sustainable energy solutions. I would like to thank the CII and Exim Bank for inviting me to participate in this very important session. The discussions here today and the partnership forged as a result will pave the way for greater cleaner energy collaboration between India and Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shekhar Reddy. Dr. Shekhar Reddy opened his talk with mention that Africa could become the powerhouse of the world in terms of renewable energy sector. You know, as mitochondria is the powerhouse of an individual cell, maybe over a period of time, Africa could become the powerhouse for the entire world. If you look at the entire world as a cell, he spoke about the initiatives and activities of the Indian government, the achievements, and listed several areas where collaboration could be possible: installation of IPP solar plants, manufacturing of solar modules, working together in hydrogen, working together in terms of supply chain, in terms of batteries, vehicles, because of the availability of the resources, capacity building programs which India has done well. There's an opportunity to collaborate with Africa and together look at innovative financing schemes which can make the renewable energy projects possible on the ground. Thank you, Dr. Shekhar Reddy, for your excellent address. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure and privilege to welcome His Excellency Mr. William Auraku Aidu, Deputy Minister for Energy, Republic of Ghana, for his address. He has been an energy consultant and a farmer before he became the minister. He also won the National Best Farmer Award for cashew production in Ghana in 2011. A unique combination of a farmer and an energy consultant who has become the Minister for Energy for Republic of Ghana. Over to you, Your Excellency, Mr. Aidu.
Thank you very much, indeed. Permit me to associate myself with the previous speakers in congratulating CII and Indian Exim Bank for a wonderful organization for this program. I stand here to address an issue of utmost importance, an issue that transcends borders and unites continents. That is the scaling up of green and clean energy collaboration between India and Africa. This collaboration holds the potential to revolutionize the energy landscape of both regions and pave the way for sustainable future. In today's world, where the severest threats of climate change loom large, decarbonization and the net zero agenda have become imperative component of any energy transition plan. It is crucial that we integrate these principles into our efforts to enhance our collective energy security and sustainability. By aligning our strategies with decarbonization and net zero goals, we can ensure a sustainable, environmentally friendly energy future for the peoples of our regions. India, with its renowned capabilities in the renewable energy landscape, can be a force multiplier in driving Africa's own green growth. Our two regions share a common goal of achieving energy security and transitioning towards clean energy economy. Ghana and India share some common ambitions on the path to energy transition, not least the following: decarbonizing and reaching the net zero emissions by 2070, identifying viable pathways for transition towards carbon neutrality within a secure and efficient energy sector, and having a just, as was previously said by a speaker, a just transition path among others. Ladies and gentlemen, let's look at the green energy transition efforts of India vis-à-vis Africa and Ghana for that matter. India is committed to meeting its net zero carbon emission by 2070, as said earlier. Ghana, on the other hand, with a relatively low proportion of renewables in our power generation portfolio, intends to meet its net zero targets also by 2070. Ghana's total cost of energy transition by 2020 is estimated to be something in the region of $500 billion US, a colossal amount. On the continental level, studies show that the demand for energy in Africa is increasing twice as fast as that of the global average. In almost all transition plans of governments in Africa, including Ghana's, green hydrogen plays a key role. Africa's abundant solar and wind energy supply can help bolster the continent's green hydrogen production. Looking at the potential of Africa-India partnership in scaling up green energy potential. One important area that India and Africa partnership has immense potential is the green energy development, particularly solar and hydrogen production. And one way both sides can engage in hydrogen production is developing affordable, large-scale solar plants within a balanced ecosystem. Power supply is estimated to make up about 50% of the cost of producing green hydrogen. India is already leveraging its partnership with Africa through the International Solar Alliance's solar power initiatives. And this can only be scaled up if we are to meet the ambitious green energy targets set by our various governments. On the path to energy transition, Ghana was one of the first countries to ratify the framework agreement of the International Solar Alliance and aims to increase the contribution of solar energy in its generation mix, move its electricity access from the current level of 88% to universal access of 90% by the end of next year, and 99.8% by 2030, in line with the Paris Agreement. The existing collaboration between ISA and Ghana are in the promotion of mini-grid electrification schemes, solar lanterns, solar street lighting, and off-grid solar home systems. We recently enhanced this with plans to establish a Solar Technology Applications Resource Center at STAR-C in Ghana to provide capacity building, certification of solar technologies, and solutions. I am glad to inform you that Ghana has signed her part of the MOU for STAR-C, and I have no doubt that the ISA will be signing her part shortly. I call on the government of India to leverage the achievements of ISA, particularly the STAR-C, to increase support to Ghana and Africa in general in the areas of capacity development, technology transfer, and investment. India can also partner Africa in commercialization of green hydrogen by establishing the requisite infrastructure to stimulate early adoption by transport sector and enable faster adoption of fuel cell technology in the aviation industry, trucking, busing, and marine logistics. European countries are already in partnership talks with North African countries in this regard, as the long-term cost of producing green hydrogen in Africa is estimated to cost about half of its cost in Europe. It goes without saying that collaboration in research and development to develop more efficient and cost-effective technologies at various stages of the green hydrogen supply chain would be a key enabler of any partnerships among the two sides. Ghana's own energy transition agenda positions it to leverage its transition mineral resources, what we term green minerals, such as lithium, cobalt, manganese, nickel, aluminum, graphite, it's a long list, iron, copper, and phosphate, amongst other strategies, to support the green transition. The growing demand for electricity storage facilities, for power generation, electric vehicles, and electronics has driven and is expected to continue to enhance the demand for green minerals, especially the lithium cobalt minerals. While some of these minerals are currently being exploited, others are at various stages of prospectivity and present a great opportunity for collaboration in their development. Furthermore, like other emerging economies, Ghana has joined the call for a just transition and seek to leverage its oil and gas resources, particularly gas as a transition fuel, to finance aspects of its transition efforts. And Ghana continues to benefit from blended financing from stakeholders such as the Exim Bank, concessional facilities from the Climate Investment Fund, African Development Bank, the Suez government, and the other development partners. Undoubtedly, the huge investment requirements for the transition means that, in addition to our efforts, key partners in this venture, like the Indian government, will remain crucial. As noted earlier, the ISA has been at the forefront of promoting solar energy adoption globally. By scaling up its support to Africa, the ISA can play a pivotal role in facilitating technology transfer, capacity building, and unlock financial assistance to African countries. Through strategic partnerships, we can empower local communities, reduce energy poverty, and improve the quality of life for millions of Africans who currently lack access to electricity. In conclusion, the scaling up of green and clean energy collaboration between India and Africa holds immense potential for transforming our energy landscape. The opportunities for partnerships between Africa and India's renewable energy companies are vast, and we must seize this opportunity to unlock our respective renewable energy potentials. Let us embrace this momentous occasion and work together to build a greener, cleaner, and more sustainable future for Ghana, Africa, and India, and the entire world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the excellent articulation of the opportunities and the need to work together to build a cleaner, greener Ghana, India, and the world as a whole. He mentioned about several points, 3 or 4 of which I thought I'll reiterate. Net zero by 2070 is a target which India has taken, also a similar target for Ghana. He said ISA has got a major role to play, and there could be substantial opportunities for working together. Third area where he said India and Ghana can work together is in terms of green hydrogen, and working for green hydrogen, experimenting it with the transportation sector. Thank you, Your Excellency, for an excellent address. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure and privilege to welcome His Excellency Ibrahim Matola, Honorable Minister for Energy, Republic of Malawi. He was earlier the Deputy Minister of Environment and Climate Change in 2012. Mr. Matola is a person who believes in continuous learning, and right now is pursuing a master's degree in international relations from the University of Leicester. Over to you, His Excellency.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to break the norm. I was supposed to use that podium because most of the speakers have used this side. So if I can go that side when my brother from Ghana has used it first, then it will be like there is a separation. That podium is for the African ministers. The session moderator, who is the Executive Director of CII, Green Business Council, and all previous speakers and presenters who has done the able job before me and also who are coming after me. All protocol observed. I stand before you today, honored to have been offered this invaluable opportunity to participate in the race, the 18th Conclave of India and Africa on growth partnerships under the theme Scaling Up Green and Clean Energy Collaborations. As Malawi, under the visionary leadership of His Excellency, Dr. Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera, the President of the Republic of Malawi, we express our heartfelt gratitude to the Government of India for extending this invitation with a goodwill to explore prospects of enhancing, for extending this invitation with a goal and goodwill to explore prospects of enhancing India's assistance for strengthening Africa's energy security and improve energy collaboration between India and African countries. Energy is the driver of the economy, and energy is the lifeblood of any nation's development. And it plays a crucial role in driving economic growth, ensuring social progress, and improving the equality of life for our citizens. Malawi, like many other African countries, recognizes the urgent need to address the challenges posed by lack of energy security in the face of a rapidly changing world. In recent years, our continent has witnessed the detrimental efforts of climate change, leading to increased frequency and intensity of extreme weather events such as droughts and floods. Just recently, Malawi was hit by Cyclone Freddy, a cyclone that has taken away lives, infrastructure, crops, and homes, to mention a few. Last year in January 2022, Malawi was hit by Cyclone Anna, which caused a damage to one of Malawi's major hydro power station, namely Kapichira power plant, and took away 129 megawatts from our national grid. These events had a severe impact on our energy infrastructure and the capability to hinder our ability to provide consistent and reliable energy services to our people, and preventing the increasing of access to electricity from the current situation, which we are at 12%. The devastating consequences of these challenges highlight the crucial importance of finding sustainable solutions to meet our energy needs and demands. Malawi, along with other African nations, recognizes the need to transition to a more sustainable and resilient energy sector as stipulated in the African Union Agenda 2063 on achieving environmentally sustainable and climate resilient economies and communities. We must mitigate the effects of climate change, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and embrace renewable energy sources. By doing so, we can improve energy access, enhance energy efficiency, and ensure the long-term sustainability of our energy systems. The government of Malawi has taken significant steps
to address these challenges and promote sustainable energy practices. We have embarked on establishment of enabling policies, strategies, and initiatives to encourage private sector investments in the energy sector. Furthermore, we are actively exploring opportunities to harness the potential of renewable energy, and preliminary and in the same case, feasibility studies have been done for hydro projects, geothermal projects, solar and wind potential in support of the development of such projects. I'm very glad that most of the speakers have mentioned the abundant, God-given natural resources within Africa. Africa is so blessed. No matter how Africa can go into disputes or conflict with other continents, but they will never block the God-given natural resource, the sun. No matter how we can go into disputes with other continents, they will never block us not to have wind, because these are God-given natural resources, and we need to utilize them. So the coming in of the Independent Power Producers Framework, renewable energy strategies, mini-grid, regulatory framework, and others have been put in place to guide investments in the energy sector. Our efforts to enhance private sector actors in the energy sector has borne fruit since companies such as JCM Power Limited, Serengeti Solar, and Cedar Power have established solar and hydro power stations and are currently commissioned and operational, and many other energy efficient projects by private sector are underway. However, like any ambitious undertaking, we face challenges, and one of the key obstacles in access to adequate financing, the implementation of sustainable energy projects requires substantial financial resources, and we must explore innovative financing mechanisms and partnerships to mobilize the necessary funds. It is in this context that we seek to strengthen our collaboration with India, a country renowned for its expertise in renewable energy and its commitment to supporting sustainable development in Africa. There is an African proverb which says, "One hand cannot clap." In Arabic, they say, "Al-yadu wahidu la tusaffaq." The government of India, through its various initiatives and programs, had demonstrated its dedication to advancing clean energy technologies and supporting partner countries in achieving their energy goals. We are immensely grateful for the assistance provided thus far, particularly through the lines of credit from the CII-Exim Bank. These resources have enabled us to embark on vital energy projects that have contributed to our energy security. Let's not look at bigger projects. We can start with small projects, mini, hydro, off-grids, solar, and let me quote one of the philosophers from India who said, and I quote, "A journey of 1,000 miles started with a single step." As we gather here today, we humbly request the government of India to continue its support in providing both financial resources and technical expertise to assist us in developing and implementing sustainable energy projects. There is need to adopt well-researched new technologies while considering to meet energy requirements and developmental goals for Africa, as well as India and other developing countries. Our partnership should be a win-win collaboration where we can learn from each other's experiences and build a sustainable future for our respective nations. Furthermore, we recognize the importance of knowledge sharing in promoting sustainable energy practice. We hope that India will benefit from the insights gained from our efforts and experiences in tackling energy challenges in a developing country context. By working together, we can foster an environment of mutual learning and cooperation, ensuring the sustained availability of clean and affordable energy for all. And this, to my African brothers and sisters, can be achieved by changing our curriculums in the education sector. Time has come when our children should not be taught about who discovered River Niger. Galileo is the one who discovered the microscope. How many parts are in the grasshopper when you bisect the grasshopper? Time has come when our children should be taught about the renewable, about the science and technology, so that they can start from the cradle. Finally, let us remember that achieving energy security in Africa not only benefits our continent, but also contributes to the global goal of a sustainable future by embracing renewable energy, promoting energy efficiency, and adopting responsible energy practices. We can collectively reduce our carbon footprints, protect our natural resources, and create a more prosperous and equitable world. It is very important, the participation of the civil society. We need to have vibrant civil societies in our countries, but not pulling one another down by getting injunctions, by derailing the projects in the name of fighting for environment. And I would like to urge the nations who support the civil society to look into these issues, to have clean, reliable, affordable, sustainable energy needs collaboration. Let's not be, and I advise to my fellow African countries, let's not have a self-destruction syndrome, which is in the fish. In conclusion, I extend my gratitude once again to the government of India for hosting this significant event and for their unwavering support to the government of Malawi and all other African countries in our pursuit of sustainable energy security. Together, let us seize this opportunity to strengthen our partnership, share knowledge, and collaborate on innovative solutions that will pave the way for a brighter and greener future. Together, we can build a better world, as it is stipulated in the song of the late Michael Jackson, Heal the World. I wish I had more time and I could play that song for Michael Jackson, Heal the World, because we need to have a better future for our children and our children and our children. Let them not blame us for the negligence and the mistakes which we have done. I'm confident that by joining forces, we can overcome the challenges that lie ahead and create a resilient energy sector that will power our nation's progress. Let us strive for a future where every African, every Indian, and every citizen of the world has access to clean, reliable, affordable, and sustainable. It is well stipulated in the Sustainable Goals and Goal number 7. Yet we are targeting 2030. And 2030 is just tomorrow. Yet our people have no affordability, reliability, sustainability of energy. Thank you for your attention, and may our deliberations during this session lead us towards a sustainable energy partnership that promotes green and clean energy collaborations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your passionate, emotional speech. I won't try to summarize His Excellency Ibrahim Matullah's points. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. May I now have the privilege of inviting His Excellency Mr. Abdullah Jobe, Honorable Minister of Petroleum and Energy, Republic of Gambia, an engineer by qualification, extensive experience in water, electricity, and public utilities. He also had been extensively involved with the private sector in several management positions. And before he served as the Director General of Gambia Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, right now with the Honorable Minister of Petroleum and Energy, Republic of the Gambia. May I now request Your Excellency for your address, please. Thank you.
Good morning to you all. The session moderator, the honorable ministers that are present here, the distinguished panelists, all protocols duly and respectfully observed. Being the last speaker, I think I've listened more attentively at all the distinguished panelists, and I've learned more and get the chance to polish my last word. So thank you very much for educating me and for providing me with additional input, which I will use in my speech. I'm deeply honored and privileged to be invited to this 18th CII-Exim Bank Conclave and Africa Growth Partnership, and to be given the opportunity to address this gathering on the important topic we're discussing here today. As we may all know, energy is the bedrock of industrialization and modern nation building. This is why all countries all over the world strive to provide secure, accessible, reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy services to our economies, to reduce or mitigate the impact of pollution from fossil fuel energy sources. Two broad energy sources have been identified as vehicles for mitigation or the reduction of pollution from the energy industry, and they are renewable and energy efficiency. For the purpose of this session, my deliberation will focus on renewables, green and clean energy, and to share my thoughts on how to scale up the collaboration with our Indian brothers in this area. We know that green and clean energy sources have been considered as a means of mitigating climate change or facilitating energy transition. Renewable energy technologies like wind, solar already exist today, and in most cases are cheaper than coal and other fossil fuel. We know that. So the need to put them to work urgently, at scale, and speed is imminent and imperative. We've already heard from the distinguished speakers some of the issues, collaboration, and initiatives that have been done. Let me just quote what the Secretary General of the United Nations said some time ago, outlined 5 critical actions. He said that the world needs to prioritize now to transform our energy systems and speed up the shift to renewable energy, because without renewable, there can be no future. So, and we need to make renewable energy technology a global public good, and some of us have elaborated on that point. We need to be able to improve global access to components and raw materials. I think the doctor from the Ministry of Commerce has elaborated on the supply chain. That is very pivotal. To level the playing field for renewable energy technologies, to shift energy subsidies from fossil fuel to renewable, and to triple investment in renewables. And these investments are not just the traditional investments, but the innovative investments that my colleague, distinguished panelists have already indicated. As a common agenda in the fight against climate change, there is need for more enhanced collaboration in this field, and hence this topic of this discussion. If the global community is to achieve the energy transition and the 2050 net zero emission targets, therefore, the existing collaboration in green and clean energy needs to be broadened and scaled up to secure a sustainable future for all of us. Some of the ways to scale up this collaboration with our brothers in India is, one, we need to continue our collaboration at the global level through IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency. Of course, the first speaker also from ISA spoke, the collaboration with ISA. They're doing a tremendous amount of work in bridging and connecting Africa and India, and of course other partners. And in the Gambia, we are a member of the ISA and have ratified, because the formulation of appropriate and robust policy and regulatory framework for the promotion of massive deployment of green and clean energy technologies can be enhanced through these international entities. We also need to promote capacity building and research in green and clean energy. Also, I believe that the South-South cooperations that brings us here today, for the last couple of days, it's a good forum because it will enable us to exchange ideas, also to develop capacities. We need to do more research because the Indians have the capacity, they have invested heavily in human capital, and this is something that we can collaborate to promote green and clean energy in areas like the green mini-grids, the solar home systems, street lights, solar street lights, and of course collaboration in green hydrogen, because that's the energy of the future. We can collaborate also at the bilateral and multilateral level for the mobilization of financial resources, because all that we are talking about, we know the effects of climate change, the statistics is there, and the technology exists. How do we make it happen? Through the resources. So that is very important, and to provide this in a concessional manner for the developing countries. And as one of our colleagues says, the process to access these concessional financing need to be streamlined and need to be facilitatory. Interconnection, I think this is one important area of the electricity infrastructure. And electricity trade is also a very important aspect, because in the West African Economic Zone, we're developing the West African Power Pool. To do what? To be able to interconnect our transmission infrastructure so that we will be able to transmit power from countries that are rich in energy sources, be it renewable and other sources, to those countries that are less endowed with these resources. And this is one of the things that Wilson, the guy from Sterling and Wilson, mentioned. And I think I attended a conference recently, and when somebody said, and this is very relevant, is that no transition can exist without transmission. Without the transmission, we cannot have any transition, because not everybody is endowed with the resources that will give us the green and clean energy. So transmission is the key, because it connects all of us. So we need to collaborate at the international level to get more climate funding. At the country level in the Gambia, we are on a clear and very definitive path to achieve energy transition. And this we're doing through national strategies in the form of diversification of our energy mix. We're currently constructing 23 megawatt solar grid-connected power plant. We're also hosting a 150 megawatts regional solar power plant under the ECOWAS. We're also exploring wind, other sources. We're interested in collaboration in green energy, so in green hydrogen. We're currently upgrading our transmission network. We've constructed 225 kV transmission network connecting some of our countries in the region. And we are now, importing power, which is cheaper than, and is from green sources. We are formulating energy efficiency legislation, policies, and strategies. We're doing audits in buildings to make them more green. We're also standardizing energy equipment. And we're also, as one of the speakers talked about, we're also distributing cook stoves in rural communities to improve and reduce greenhouse emissions. So there is enormous opportunity, and we're here, and because the Indian government and the Indian companies have the expertise, the knowledge, the experience that we Africans can tap and try to scale up our green and clean energy for the sustained development of our continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for excellently articulating all the aspects starting from renewable energy, energy efficiency, and the need to increase subsidies for renewable energy, tripling the investment more in renewable energy research rather than in implementation. Green hydrogen, you said, is the future for collaboration between India and the African countries. And last but not the least, the byline you made, transition is not possible without transmission. I think that more emphasizes the last mile connectivity. Thank you, sir, for your excellent address. Ladies and gentlemen, we were overshot the time for our sessions. Thank you all very much. May I request all of you to join me in thanking the speakers for their excellent address, and then we would reassemble for the next session. Thank you all. Thank you.
Mr. Venkatgiri, may I request you to hand over a token of appreciation to our African guests, to His Excellency Mr. William Oburaku Aidu, Deputy Minister from Ghana. Mr. Matola, His Excellency, Honorable Minister for Energy, Republic of Malawi, and His Excellency Mr. Abdullahi Job, Honorable Minister of Petroleum and Energy, Republic of Gambia. May I request all the speakers to please stand up together for a photo opportunity, and with that we'll close the session. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to move on to the valedictory session, for which we have our speakers already here, and we have our Deputy Prime of Zimbabwe, and His Excellency Mr. Jallow, Vice President, Republic of Gambia. They will all be joining us. Request you all to please remain seated. We are not taking a tea coffee break. Please keep the hall orderly and remain seated so we can start with the session immediately.
CII's green initiatives. Welcome to the world of green buildings. CII's Indian Green Building Council, IGBC, with the support of all stakeholders, launched the country's first IGBC Net Zero Energy Building Rating System in 2018. This enabled the enhancement of green features of buildings by bringing in innovative and futuristic technologies. IGBC certified green buildings resulted in a tremendous reduction of energy and water consumption and also provided healthier places for people. CII's IGBC, set up over 2 decades ago, has launched many impactful and innovative initiatives. Today, IGBC has 31 different rating programs, 29 chapters across India, and 6,000 accredited professionals. With the active participation of all stakeholders, today India has achieved a major milestone of 10.22 billion square feet of registered green building footprint. India has become the second largest country in the world in green built area. From the places we stay, work, study, transit, play and worship. The green building movement is spreading across the country as India is witnessing enormous development over the next 5 decades. Going green and net zero is the only way forward. With the rich experience of over 2 decades, IGBC launched Mission on Net Zero on Earth Day 2021, which is in alignment with the Government of India's commitment of India becoming a net zero carbon emitter by 2070. We invite every citizen of our country to join the green and net zero building movement spearheaded by IGBC and make India the Jagat Guru in sustainability.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the last and the final session, the finale, the valedictory session, we are going to start with that now, and I'd like to request all of you to please settle down so that we can have the room in order before we bring in our dignitaries for this session. I'd like to request our speakers to be brought in. Rajesh? Ladies and gentlemen, do join me in welcoming our dignitaries for the valedictory session as they arrived just now. Can we have a louder applause, please? How are you? Yes. Morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the valedictory session, the grand finale of the 18th CII-Exim Bank Conclave on India-Africa Growth Partnership. To begin this session, I'd like to invite Mr. Sanjeev Puri, President-Designate, Confederation of Indian Industry, to give his opening remarks. Sir.
His Excellency General Chiwenge, Vice President Zimbabwe, His Excellency Mr. Mohammad Jallow, Vice President Republic of Gambia, His Excellency Bital Kamre Lua Kinigi Kingi, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Economy, Democratic Republic of Congo, Shri V. Muralidharan, Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, Government of India, my colleagues from the industry, Ms. Harsha Bangari, Managing Director, Exim Bank, Mr. Kopuswamy, Co-Chair of the CII Africa Committee, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you to this very important event, the valedictory session of the CII-Exim Bank Conclave on India-Africa Growth Partnership. It's been an immensely satisfying conclave with tremendous participation, a heightened level of engagement, a heightened spirit of collaboration, and very clearly what was palpable was the spirit of friendship and collaboration throughout this summit. Excellencies, your address at the inaugural sessions has been indeed very inspirational. Your very focused interventions at the country sessions have been extremely productive and very well received. And I do believe that your leadership in this very important area of economic engagement with India is certainly going to go a long way in providing further impetus. Honorable Minister, Shri Muralidharanji, thank you very much for your constant engagement with industry to take forward the India-Africa economic relationships. At the inaugural session, we had the privilege of the Honorable External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, and he outlined the multi-dimensional opportunities and engagement within trade and investment, infrastructure construction, skill development, education, technology, and manufacturing. New areas like space and renewable energy were also identified. The trade session with the Honorable Commerce and Industry Minister and the African ministers was very productive and elaborated on the way ahead for building sustainable and inclusive trade. the need for integrating with global value chains was well made during that session. This conclave has had tremendous participation with the presence of 28 ministers from Africa, more than 800 delegates from over 60 countries. The B2B meetings have been most successful, with as many as 400 being held during the event. CII remains committed to providing further impetus to this very important area of economic collaboration between India and Africa, and we have a series of interventions that we will be taking forward over time. First of all, CII will continue to organize regional conclaves to diversify the activities of Indian industry in Africa. Secondly, CII plans to hold more focused sectoral initiatives for a very deeper and wider engagement so that the basket of trade can be diversified, and studies show there are opportunities to indeed do that. Third, CII would like to develop a strong agenda for increasing the industry's investment in Africa, leveraging India-specific industrial parks. Fourthly, CII is, with its deep understanding of the Indian context as also the opportunities in Africa, I think can play an immense role in helping both sides to develop global value chains that can provide goods and services to third countries. Fifthly, CII would also like to support and participate in Africa's green transformation. The CII has got multiple Center of Excellences, the CII Center of Excellence for Green Buildings, the CII-ITC Center for Sustainable Development, the Food and Agriculture Center of Excellence will certainly strengthen engagement with Africa over time. And in this context, may I also mention that there's an area that we can all work together, that's in the context of emerging restrictions that are coming in the context of ESGs as trade barriers, and as also multiple rating agencies that can create headwinds for integration with global value chains in future. I think what we do need is a more integrative, inclusive, calibrated, and a just mechanism, and that's something that's an area for Global South to collaborate on. Sixth, as part of the B20 initiative and the agenda from India, we have an action council that focuses on furthering economic and trade cooperation between Africa and India, and we are developing recommendations which we will be sharing with G20, and parallelly we are also looking along with B20 to see what areas of engagement can be furthered. We all stand today at a time when the world will increasingly recognize the importance of Global South. A new world order is emerging, and I do believe the India-Africa partnership, which is endured, will be a reference point and can go a long way in furthering this process. Let me thank, in the end, all the speakers, delegates, my grateful thank to your excellencies and honorable ministers, and I'm sure the conclave will, and the ideas that have been exchanged will provide further impetus to the collaboration between India and Africa. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Puri. May I now invite Mr. S. Kupuswamy, Co-Chairman CII Africa Committee, to report back on the conclave deliberations.
Good morning, Honorable Minister for External Affairs, Minister of State for External Affairs, Shri Muralidharan-ji, Excellencies on the dais, distinguished dignitaries, friends. I'm extremely pleased to say that we had an outstanding conclave with intense deliberations on various topics. We had the gracious participation of 3 heads of state, all of whom are gracing us here. His Excellency Mr. Mohammed B.S. Jallow, Vice President Republic of Gambia, His Excellency Dr. Chivenga, Vice President of Zimbabwe, His Excellency Mr. Vital Kamare Lua, Deputy Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo, 28 senior ministers and more than 800 delegates from 45 African countries took part in the conclave. We also had 25 other countries, non-African countries, participating in this. It has underlined the critical importance of India-Africa partnership, not just for the two regions, but for the entire world. As indeed the Deputy Prime Minister DR Congo mentioned it, Africa is the hope for humanity in future. In these 3 days, we have had 13 sectoral sessions and 3 country sessions. DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, Zimbabwe, and the Gambian Republic. The inaugural session, a special ministerial session on trade, and of course, the current valedictory session. Honorable Shri Jaishankar, Minister of External Affairs, set the tone for the deliberations in the inaugural session when he said the India-Africa Development Partnership will have a strong focus on digitization, green energy, healthcare, food security and water security in tune with the pressing needs of Africa and the recent experiences of India. On digital transformation of Africa, Dr. Jaishankar said India's success in building digital delivery of goods, public goods, furthering inclusivity that way, will have a great relevance for Africa and offered Indian help for that. Strengthening of Indian-African bilateral trade received renewed attention in the conclave. In a special session, Honorable Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, Minister for Commerce and Industry, Textiles, Consumer Affairs and Food, said the India-Africa collaboration should be built more robustly, diversely, and resiliently for supply chains, redefining the parameters of engagement and exploring new sectors for cooperation. He harped on the theme, One World, One Grid, in line with Honorable Prime Minister Modi's declaration. He said India and Africa should come together to establish interconnected grids served by clean energy. India could also extend its expertise to Africa in the development of digital public infrastructure. The special ministerial session highlighted the scope for enhancing Indian investments in Africa in sectors like telecom, power generation, infrastructure, mining, agriculture, education, SME development, as well as ACZs and investment climate, investment corridors as well. For the first time, the conclave, particular focus was given on growth partnership opportunities in areas like space economy and critical minerals. There was a session on space sector partnerships also. Critical minerals were specially harped upon so that processing of these minerals in Africa itself deserved particular attention, as the minister said. India gaining access to more resilient supply chains of critical minerals was also talked about. Adoption of innovative financing models of growth for growth was intensely debated upon. Growth partnership for funding and financing Africa's physical infrastructure was a key component of the deliberations. Over the last 3 days, senior ministers, government officials, and business leaders from India and Africa have put forth several key recommendations. I would specifically harp upon one topic dear to my heart, and that of all the powers that be in India and Africa. Indian assistance to Africa is distinct from assistance given by other powers, because here India shares its own scarce resources in a spirit of South-South cooperation. It is in times of difficulty that we all are tested. There could be delays, but these delays ought not to be hampering the growth of projects. If projects are once taken up, it is in the enlightened self-interest of both the Indian government and the African governments to ensure that nothing stops the projects from being completed and put to full use. To conclude, Indian Vedas declare, Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukha bhag bhavet. Meaning, let everyone be happy, let everyone be free from diseases, let all be free of worries and sorrow, and let everyone see only good things. In this spirit of collaboration and cooperation, let the CII-Exim India-Africa Conclave scale further heights in new years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kuppuswamy. I now invite Ms. Harsha Bangari, Managing Director, Exim Bank, to give her remarks, please.
Thank you. Mr. V. Muralidharan, Honorable Minister of State, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, His Excellency Mr. Mohammad B.S. Jalo, Vice President, Republic of Gambia, His Excellency General Dr. C.G.D.N. Chuvenga, Vice President, Republic of Zimbabwe, His Excellency Vittal Kamere, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Economy, Democratic Republic of Congo, Mr. S. Kuppuswamy, Co-Chairman, CII-Africa Committee, Mr. Sanjeev Puri, President-Designate CII, delegates from African countries, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm afternoon to you. It's just 12 o'clock now. It is my honor and privilege to be here today in this valedictory session of the 18th CII-Exim Bank Conclave on India-Africa Growth Partnership. The theme of this year's conclave, Creating One Future, resonates with the theme of India's ongoing G20 presidency, One Earth, One Family, One Future. The theme also underscores that in the world of deeply integrated economies, solutions to developmental challenges could only lie in cooperation. Over the past 3 days, the conclave has provided an ideal platform for tracing the pathway for a closer cooperation between India and Africa. The cooperation would be underpinned by stronger economic linkages and a trusted development partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, the Indian Development and Economic Assistance Scheme, that is the IDEA scheme of the Government of India, has been boosting the volume and profile of India's development partnership for nearly 2 decades now. Under the IDEA's program, India-Exim Bank is extending lines of credit at the behest of Government of India for meeting the developmental priorities of partner countries. Our approach to development partnership is firmly rooted in the principles of equality and mutual benefit. We are collaborating with partner countries in a manner that is demand-driven and participative. In Africa, we have extended 196 Government of India supported lines of credit to 42 countries with aggregate commitments of over $12 billion. These lines of credit are supporting critical infrastructure projects in Africa across sectors such as transportation, connectivity, power generation and distribution, agriculture, irrigation, manufacturing, healthcare, education, and capacity building, amongst others. The private sector in India has also been a force multiplier for India's development partnership. The goods and services supplied by Indian companies for infrastructure and developmental projects in Africa are considered cost-effective and adaptable to the local conditions in Africa. The technologies of Indian companies are also considered affordable, adaptable, and appropriate, and therefore better suited for African countries. Ladies and gentlemen, the Government of India is also creating a favorable framework for bilateral trade and investments. The Government of India's duty-free tariff preference scheme for least developed countries is providing zero duty and preferential market access to several African countries. The Government of India has also signed a comprehensive economic cooperation and partnership agreement with Mauritius, which is the first such agreement with an African nation. Other trade agreements with the region are also in process. Moreover, to promote bilateral investments, India has entered into bilateral investment promotion and protection agreements with several African countries. These initiatives are creating a conducive environment for trade and investment between our respective countries. Strong business interests coupled with favorable policies are driving the trade and investments between our regions. Investments by Indian companies in Africa have exceeded 50 billion over the past 23 years. Trade between our regions have also increased, reaching nearly $100 billion in the last financial year. The support extended by India-Exim Bank under its various financing programs has played a crucial role in fostering this trade and investment linkages. As we look ahead, there is a pronounced need for diversification of African economies. More than 80% of African nations are dependent on commodity exports, making them prone to sector-specific shocks. We remain committed to partner African countries in their pursuit of effective diversification of their exports basket. Diversification of exports from Africa would entail sustained investment in infrastructure and greater value chain linkages in manufacturing. Enhancing collaborations in the financial sector can also boost confidence in settlement of trade transactions and thereby facilitate trade in new sectors. At India-Exim Bank, we are committed to engage with the Indian private sector, financial sector in India and African countries, and governments in African countries to support infrastructure development in Africa, facilitate value chain linkages, and bridge the financing gaps in trade transactions. In conclusion, I extend my deepest regards and appreciation to the speakers and panelists for their invaluable contribution to the discussions over these 3 days. I am confident that the deliberations during the conclave would help strengthen bilateral engagements between India and Africa. I hope you will have good memories of this visit to India and safe travels back home, and good luck till we meet again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Bangari. I now have the proud privilege to invite His Excellency, Mr. Vital Kamhare Lwa Kanyigini Nikingi, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Economy, Democratic Republic of Congo, to please address us.
Excellences, Monsieur le Vice-président de la République du Zimbabwe, Excellences, Messieurs les Vice-présidents de la République de la Gambie, Excellences, Messieurs les ministres d'État près le ministère des Relations extérieures du gouvernement indien, Excellences, Messieurs et Mesdames les ministres délégués à ce conclave organisé par Exim Bank ici à Delhi, Madame la directrice générale d'Exim Bank, Mesdames et Messieurs, tout protocole observé. Au thème de cette 18e édition du conclave de la Confédération de l'industrie indienne, Exim Bank Inde, permettez-moi, au nom de Son Excellence, Monsieur le Président de la République démocratique du Congo, Son Excellence Félix Antoine Tshisekedi Tshilombo, et en celui de la délégation qui m'accompagne, de réitérer notre gratitude aux autorités de la République de l'Inde pour l'accueil chaleureux qui nous a été réservé depuis notre arrivée jusqu'à ce jour. Nos remerciements s'adressent également aux organisateurs pour avoir fait l'honneur de nous inviter à participer à ce rendez-vous inoubliable qui aura vu intervenants et participants partager des sujets aussi intéressants que les autres sur les possibilités d'échange entre l'Inde et l'Afrique. Que Exim Bank Inde trouve aussi dans mon adresse de ce jour mes remerciements pour le rôle que cette banque joue dans la mise en œuvre des stratégies et politiques économiques en vue de développer et d'améliorer les partenariats économiques entre l'Inde et l'Afrique. Ce conclave en est une illustration en ce moment de la redéfinition de la géopolitique mondiale. L'Afrique doit saisir cette occasion pour réaliser son rendez-vous avec l'histoire. Ce continent, peuplé en majorité de jeunes et doté de réserves naturelles innombrables et inégalées, possède des atouts indéniables pour se développer et assurer l'épanouissement de sa population fortement appauvrie. Mesdames et Messieurs, au regard de l'ampleur des riches et féconds échanges qui ont eu lieu au cours de ces 3 journées, il me sera impossible d'épiloguer sur tous les points de vue qui ont été exprimés au cours des sessions organisées. Pour rappel, toutes ces sessions ont gravité autour de l'objectif que ce conclave s'est fixé et qui consistait à créer des synergies pour une croissance partagée entre l'Inde et l'Afrique. Effectivement, cette réunion a permis à mon pays, la République démocratique du Congo, de participer et de présenter les atouts qui reposent sur ses potentialités environnementales, minières, agricoles, énergétiques et sociales. Décliner ces projets en infrastructures ferroviaires, routières et fluviales. Je signale en passant que les chemins de fer partant du port en eau profonde de Banana, à l'ouest de la République démocratique du Congo, jusqu'à Uvira à l'est, via Gitega au Burundi, pour atteindre le port de Dar es Salaam en Tanzanie, permettra aussi la connectivité de la fibre optique le long de ce corridor central en vue de créer une voie de télécommunication de secours à celle existante entre l'Asie et l'Europe. D'échanger sur des perspectives d'investissement avec les différents partenaires, bref, de présenter les projets structurants de mon pays tournant autour de l'amélioration des conditions de vie de l'homme dans toutes ses dimensions. C'est cela que nous appelons le développement tant recherché. Maintenant que nous sommes arrivés au thème de nos travaux, j'ai le plaisir de vous annoncer que pendant ces 3 jours, j'ai échangé avec d'importants investisseurs indiens, tous disposés à venir investir ou renforcer leurs investissements en République démocratique du Congo. Je puis vous assurer et vous rassurer que le gouvernement de la République démocratique du Congo entreprend des réformes importantes en ce moment, notamment dans le secteur de la fiscalité, pour créer un climat des affaires attrayant pour les investisseurs nationaux et étrangers. Il s'agit des investisseurs ci-après, Greencrest, spécialisé dans la transformation des bananiers en tissus textiles et en fertilisants liquides pour l'agriculture. MKU, spécialisé dans la fabrication des équipements de protection des forces de sécurité et des plateformes militaires. Barty, entreprise déjà présente en République démocratique du Congo, spécialisée dans le domaine des télécommunications, qui souhaite diversifier ses activités, notamment dans le domaine de l'agriculture. Il s'agit aussi de l'entreprise Tata, désireuse de fournir des engins agricoles en plus des matériels roulants qu'il vend déjà dans notre pays. Il s'agit aussi de Chakti Group qui veut se lancer dans la production du sucre, la fourniture du riz, l'élevage et dans la création des écoles techniques pour la formation de la jeunesse dans le domaine de l'agriculture. De l'Exim Bank qui tient à poursuivre la facilitation des investissements privés en République démocratique du Congo. De Mahindra, déjà présent dans notre pays depuis des lustres, qui souscrit à l'idée de monter des unités d'assemblage de véhicules en République démocratique du Congo. Elle propose en outre la mécanisation de cultures telles que le riz et de renforcer la capacité de la jeunesse dans la maintenance des équipements agricoles. Il s'agit aussi des groupes Vendetta qui veulent investir dans les mines, les textiles, les produits chimiques et dans la cimenterie. De l'entreprise Mundra Kupa qui souhaite installer une usine de transformation des minerais en République démocratique du Congo. 10, avant de citer la dernière entreprise, il s'agit de Continental Construction qui est spécialisée dans la construction des routes, immeubles, barrages électriques, mais aussi dans l'agriculture, qui souhaite venir investir dans le domaine agricole en République démocratique du Congo. Enfin, Ashok souhaite aussi installer une usine d'assemblage de véhicules dans notre pays. La volonté politique affichée par le président de la République démocratique du Congo, son Excellence M. Félix Antoine Tshisekedi Tshilombo, qui a consisté à promouvoir un environnement sécurisé des affaires, a permis de dissiper tous les malentendus sur les risques pays qui jadis décourageaient les investissements. Nos partenaires indiens ont ainsi souscrit à l'idée de participer à la renaissance des nouveaux Congo, ce pays d'espoir et catalyseur du développement de l'Afrique que nous voulons. Je ne saurais terminer cette adresse sans remercier son Excellence, Monsieur le Vice-président indien, ici représenté, pour les échanges fructueux lors de l'audience en tête-à-tête qu'il a bien voulu m'accorder. Honorable assistance, que Dieu exauce nos vœux et prières, et avec espoir de nous revoir à la prochaine édition, je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Thank you, Excellency. I now have the pleasure to invite His Excellency General Retired Dr. C.G.D.N. Chiwenga, Vice President, Republic of Zimbabwe, to address us.
The Minister of State for External Affairs in the Government of India, Honorable V. Muraridran, Vice President of Gambia, Honorable Muhammad Jallo, Deputy Prime Minister of the Republic of Congo, Honorable Vitara Kame Wakinyingi Kingi, the Commerce Secretary in the Ministry of the Commerce Secretary in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry of the Republic of India, President-designate of the Confederation of the Indian Industry, Mr. Sajiv Puri, Managing Director of Exim Bank, Mr. Harsha Bangari, Co-Chairman of the Confederation of Indian Industry and Advisor Group and Special Projects, Mr. Kupswami, esteemed delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all. Allow me to express my sincere gratitude to the organizers of this event for coordinating a development-focused program. I also wish to commend all presenters and discussants for the insightful deliberations we have had. Our discussions were indeed mind-provoking and provided us with a roadmap on the way forward, in line with contemporary realities. The sessions have demonstrated a win-win methodology that Indians and Africans could adopt and deploy to promote socio-economic development for mutual benefit. Ladies and gentlemen, the 18th conclave was successful and is testimony of the flourishing Indo-Africa ties anchored through partnerships in trade and entrepreneurial initiatives. As is widely known, development in Africa offers many opportunities in investment, finance, infrastructure, manufacturing sector, and information communication technology sectors. As such, the sessions of India-Africa Health Partnership, trilateral cooperation, among others, have been key in addressing the continent's challenges. These sessions also provide a firm foundation for Africa's achievement of the African Union Agenda 2063 and Southern Africa Development Community's Vision 2050. For the Republic of Zimbabwe, they are in line with our National Development Strategy 2021 to 2025, which is the first 5-year medium-term plan aimed at realizing the country's vision 2030 of achieving a prosperous and empowered upper middle-income society by 2030, as espoused by our President, His Excellency Dr. Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa. Of particular interest are the proposed new models of financing, such as the build, own, operate, and transfer, and build, operate, and transfer. These will be instrumental to spurring sustainable and win-win economic development for India and Africa. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, harnessing digital technologies and innovation will transform Africa's societies and economies. Apart from promoting Africa's integration, the digital technologies generate inclusive economic growth, stimulate job creation, erase the widening digital divide, and eradicate poverty. In sum, these technologies help Africa in securing the benefits of the digital revolution for socio-economic development. They provide new solutions, and where there is appropriate infrastructure, skills, and services, these can be incredibly powerful in transforming education, healthcare, and the way we do business. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the session on India-Africa Health Partnership was enlightening. India's healthcare industry, which has advanced infrastructure, technology, accessibility, and affordability, is an example of modern health system. I implore African governments to greatly consider providing incentives which facilitate the Indian healthcare industry to work smoothly in Africa. Indeed, Africa-India Health Partnership is the way to go. Thus, Indian public and private sector are encouraged to harness these opportunities to enhance digital transformation, agriculture, health, and energy sectors. Let me conclude by reiterating that the 18th India-Africa Conclave will bring tangible outcomes and evoke a new thinking in our respective countries' social development trajectory. Development is only possible when we work together as a family, as emphasized in discussions during the sessions. As exposed by India, progress in the world is contingent on the development of the global South. Let us capitalize on each other's strengths and promote socio-economic growth in our countries. I thank you all. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Excellency. I now invite His Excellency Mr. Mohammed B.S. Jallow, Vice President, Republic of the Gambia, to give his address, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Your Excellency, Mr. Muraldi Daran, Honorable Minister of State, Minister of External Affairs, the Government of India, Your Excellency, Retired General Dr. C.G. Jiwenga, Vice President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Your Excellency, Vital Kamali Kanyingiki, Deputy Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo, the President-designate, Mr. Sanjeev Puri of the Confederation of Indian Industry, the Managing Director of Exim Bank, Mrs. Harsha Bangari, the Co-Chairman All Africa Committee, Mr. Kapushi Kwame, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you greetings from His Excellency President Adama Barrow of the Republic of the Gambia. First of all, I would like to extend my apologies for being absent during the opening ceremony because I was held back for other state affairs in the Gambia. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would first and foremost like to express my deep and saddened sorrow of hearing about the recent train accident that happened in your country. May their souls rest in perfect peace. His Excellency Adama Barrow and the people of the Republic of the Gambia, and please accept my sincere condolences to the families of the victims and to the people of India during these difficult times. My thoughts and prayers go out to all of those affected by this tragedy. It is also my pleasure to address you on this special occasion on the 18th Exim Bank Conclave on India-Africa Growth Partnership. On behalf of His Excellency President Adama Barrow, I want to extend my sincere appreciation to the Confederation of India Industry for inviting the Gambia again. India and Africa, especially with the Gambia, share a long and historic relationship on mutual cooperation. This partnership has evolved through the years and has become stronger in recent times, especially in the area of health diplomacy, education, trade, and economic cooperation, to name a few. The CII-Exim Bank Conclave plays an important role in strengthening this relationship further. Currently, the Indian government is supporting the Gambia in training permanent secretaries. I would therefore proudly and without hesitation say that the Gambia has benefited and learned a lot from one of these oldest democracies in the world through the past years. For it is through this partnership that the Gambia gained a line of credit that is used to build the National Assembly building of the Republic of the Gambia. In the same vein, the Gambia is grateful to the government of India for lifting the restrictions on the importation of rice from India. This decision allowed our country to import 100,000 metric tons of rice, which will greatly contribute to addressing food security challenges in the Gambia and the sub-region as a whole. Your generous act is highly appreciated and it strengthens the partnership between our countries. I am confident that the importation of rice from India will enable our citizens to access affordable food and improve their livelihoods. As we emerge from the global pandemic and work towards rebuilding our economies, it is critical that we continue to collaborate and explore new opportunities for growth. India can play a vital role in Africa's development by sharing its expertise, technology, and resources. Similarly, African countries can provide opportunities for Indian businesses to expand their markets and contribute to the growth of the African continent. The theme of this year's conclave is creating an attractive and conducive business environment for investment and trade. This is indeed a crucial area where both India and Africa need to focus their efforts. It is imperative that we create a business-friendly environment that attracts investment, stimulates innovation, and promotes entrepreneurship. This will enable us to achieve our common goal of sustainable economic development. The conclave provides an excellent platform for policymakers, business leaders, and experts to exchange ideas, share best practices, and strengthen partnerships. I encourage all participants to engage in productive discussions, identify areas of collaboration, and work towards creating a conducive environment for investment and trade. Investment opportunities in the Gambia are numerous and diverse, with potential for growth in real estate development, agriculture and agro-processing, tourism, transport and logistics, renewable energy technology, manufacturing, education, healthcare, and mining. The country's growing real estate sector offers affordable housing, hotels, and commercial centers, while its vast arable land, favorable climate, and water resources provide opportunities for agro-processing. Tourism attracting visitors to its beaches, wildlife reserves, and cultural attractions presents opportunities for hotels, resorts, and other tourism-related businesses. The country's strategic location presents opportunities for transport and logistics, as well as infrastructure development, while renewable energy projects like solar, wind, and hydroelectric power offer other investment potentials. The digital economy in the Gambia is also promising, with opportunities for investment in software development, e-commerce, and fintech. The Gambia, with its young democracy, is undergoing a lot of institutional reform, and it has been encouraging a series of challenges for years. It is understandable that these challenges cannot be resolved in the short term as expected by many, but commitment from government and its development partners with their continuous support has proven beyond reasonable doubt that it is on the right track to good governance and sustainability that will usher a new dawn for Gambia's prosperity and development in all aspects. In conclusion, Your Excellencies, I would like to reiterate the importance of the India-Africa Partnership and the role of the CII-Exim Bank Conclave plays in enhancing their partnership. I wish all the participants a fruitful and successful event. Long live Africa-India Partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. I now have the proud privilege to invite Mr. V. Muralidharan, Honorable Minister of State, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, to give his special address.
His Excellency Mr. Mohammad B.S. Jallow, Vice President, Republic of the Gambia. His Excellency General Retired Dr. C.G.D.N. Shivanga, Vice President, Republic of Zimbabwe. His Excellency Mr. Vital Kanigini, Deputy Prime Minister, Democratic Republic of Congo. Mr. Sanjeev Puri, President-Designate, Confederation of Indian Industry. Ms. Harsha Bangari, Managing Director, Exim Bank. Mr. S. Kuppuswamy, Co-Chairman, CII-Africa Committee. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and namaskaram to all of you. At the outset, let me express my sincere thanks to the Excellencies who expressed their grief over the train accident and for their condolence messages. During the last 1 decade, India's railways have been making rapid strides, developing the facilities extended to the travelers, as well as improving upon the technology. So definitely this incident was an unexpected one. The Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, has already expressed his grief and also said that the reasons for the incident will be found out and steps will be taken that such incident doesn't repeat. He was personally monitoring the relief operations, and I'm sure that Indian Railways will go ahead with more vigor to provide and to share its experience, to provide facilities to the people and to share its experiences across the world. Excellencies, it is my pleasure to address this valedictory session of the 18th CII-Exim Bank Conclave on India-Africa Growth Partnership. I am happy to note that there are around 1,000 representatives from government and businesses from over 40 countries from Africa, including Honorable Vice Presidents of Zimbabwe and Gambia, Deputy Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo, and 28 Honorable Ministers from various African countries attending this conclave. The conclave covered 13 sectoral sessions for collaboration and partnerships between India and Africa. It covered agriculture, food processing, trade, finance, infrastructure development, manufacturing, green energy, space, defense, digital technology, critical minerals, healthcare, education and skill development, water security and trilateral partnerships. These are very important areas in our relationship with Africa. During his address at the inaugural plenary session, Dr. S. Jaishankar, External Affairs Minister of India, outlined the broad India-Africa relationship and a way forward to take this engagement to next level. Our collaboration with Africa has grown manifold in the recent years. While we all are on same page and have identified potential areas of cooperation and collaboration, it's time that we examine and implement as many of these ideas as possible to enhance our engagement with Africa. I am confident that this conclave provides an apt platform and shows the direction in which India-Africa partnership should go. We as stakeholders should utilize the opportunities available in front of us and take the partnership further for the progress of our peoples. As Minister in charge of furthering the relationship with Africa. I had the opportunity to visit 19 countries during the 19 countries in Africa. During my visits, I had the opportunity and extensively engage with the leadership, businesses, as well as the Indian community. I can say with conviction that there continues to exist ample scope for expanding our partnership in fields including agriculture, irrigation, trade, investment, education, science and technology, healthcare, infrastructure, and digital technology. I have seen for myself the potential. However, this potential is underutilized. I therefore call upon the business community to increase their engagements, students and researchers to undertake and involve themselves in more research, business councils and chambers to step up their activities for increasing the business and trade flow, and traders to explore opportunities to increase exports of Make in India products to Africa while importing African products that they may like to export. I would like to see the relationship take a huge leap forward in the days to come. Our historic linkages are old. India and Africa have relations going back to their fight against colonialism and freedom movement. Mahatma Gandhi started his fight against colonial rulers from Africa and later used his experience for India's freedom struggle. Many African leaders got inspired by the Indian freedom movement, and the independence of India in 1947 was the landmark that led to many African and Asian countries to gain freedom. Africa remains in the center of India's foreign policy. It is testified by the 36 high-level visits from India and more than 100 high-level visits from Africa in the last few years. We are constantly trying to enhance our engagements with Africa in several fields. India has extended concessional lines of credit of over $12.3 billion to various projects in Africa. With support from African nations, Exim Bank of India, and relevant stakeholders, we have completed 206 important projects, and currently we are executing 56 projects, while 68 projects are under examination. Significant development projects covering drinking water schemes and irrigation, rural solar electrification, power plants, transmission lines, cement, sugar and textile factories, technology parks, railway infrastructure have contributed to socio-economic development of Africa. During my visits to the Gambia, Senegal, Uganda, Rwanda, Zimbabwe, Malawi, and several other countries, I myself have seen several development cooperation projects with Indian assistance. These are bringing positive changes to the lives of people of Africa. Friends, Excellencies, being a demographically young country, India understands the aspirations of the youth. India is always ready to share its experience with African partner countries to provide training, education, and skill development to the youth. India's engagement with African youth has deepened by establishment of 8 vocational training centers, 7 IT centers, a center for geoinformatics application in rural development in Madagascar, an entrepreneurship development center in Rwanda, upgradation of a technology center and several other capacity building institutions in Africa. We hope that all these institutions would play a key role for African youth, specifically rural youth, to fulfill their dreams and aspirations. During IAFS 3 in 2015, we announced the 50,000 scholarships to the African youth. It's a matter of pride for us that several high-ranking leaders, ministers and officials from Africa have studied in Indian universities. Apart from this, a number of students, professionals, and officials from Africa have been trained under our I-Tech program. We have launched the E-Vidya Bharati and E-Arogya Bharati, that is the e-education and e-health network for tele-education and telemedicine in 2019 to provide high-quality virtual education and medical services to our African partners. Under this initiative, over 14,000 youth from 22 African countries have enrolled for various degree and diploma courses. India is also proud to host over 24,000 African students who live and study in India and enrich our diverse and rich social milieu. In this year, as we are the chair of G20, Africa continues to be high on our priority, as does the Global South in general. Our civilizational belief of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and the theme for G20, that is one earth, one family, one future, are our guiding principles. We have made efforts to include the concerns and problems being faced by the Global South in the final document of G20. On behalf of Government of India, I specifically thank the Vice Presidents of the Republic of Gambia and the Republic of Zimbabwe and the Deputy Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo, who are in this program and on the dais to participate in the conclave. I also thank all the ministers, businesses and scholars from Africa for their participation. Friends, in conclusion, I thank the team of CII-Exim Bank and my MEA team for their hard work to make this event successful. I am confident that such conclave would provide a momentum to take forward the good relationship that we already enjoy with Africa. Thank you all.
Thank you, Excellency. And now with that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to a close of the session. Thank you for your participation. You've been a great audience, and I hope you've had a fruitful visit, all of you. On behalf of CII, I look forward to receiving all of you next year in 2024 for the 19th CII-Exim Bank Africa Conclave. I now invite you all to join us for lunch outside, and with this, we close the 18th CII-Exim Bank Conclave for India-Africa. Thank you very much for being with us. For all those of you who have been using the SI system, please return the equipment outside. Can we have a